973.
7:33. More of your reactions on the problems with the health service. That little over £2,000 deal. I'll give you the sums to that again in a moment. But I did mention before the news, again, I'm afraid it really is the theme, isn't it? It was the theme of most of last year, and I think it's going to be the theme of much of this year, which is financial pressures just about everywhere you look. More than 1.4 million fixed-rate mortgage customers face the prospect of significant hikes to their monthly payments when their deals end this year. These are official figures. ONS, Office for National Statistics, says 57% of those coming up for renewal this year were fixed at interest rates below 2%. David Galman is Sales Director and a Director of Galliard Homes, regularly helps us with housing matters, joins me now. Just a bit of context, David. Good morning to you. Happy New Year, by the way, Sport. Interest rates below 2%. What are you looking at now if you're out on the market now trying to get a deal? Morning, David.
Morning, Nick. Happy New Year. I think the headlines could be a little bit worse than the reality. They generally are. Swap rates, thankfully, have stabilised post the Truss debacle, where interest rates sort of crept. A 5-year fix at that time was creeping up to about 6.5%. They're now back down to 4.5%, and a 10-year rate would be down to 4%. So it's a little bit better, and better than it perhaps could have been. I think the problem was last year, the market was incredibly hot, and it was probably fueled by the rush to help to buy. Mm-hmm. Lenders exceeded their lending targets, and then they withdrew many products from the market. Then you had Truss, and then rates went through the roof.
What would your advice be to people listening now who fear they are later this year going to be caught in this trap?
Speak to your lender. Speak to your broker, speak to your advisor, perhaps as soon as possible, and see whether perhaps you can stretch the term so that you could maintain a lower rate. The problem has been, for 14 years, we were at ridiculously low rates of 0 to 0.5%, so therefore mortgages were at an all-time low for a long, long time. So there's a whole swathe of people that have never known perhaps what you and I know, where rates hit 15%.
Yeah, I remember those days. We haven't spoken about the housing market for some time. The shockwaves from the Kwarteng Liz Truss period in office, have they now diminished? How would you say the market is going into the new year?
Settling, I think, is the answer. It's settling down a little bit, and there is still a demand, and people are perhaps being a little bit more reticent about rushing in to buy and looking to be just a bit more sensible about how they're purchasing. It's not terrible out there. It's okay. There are deals being done, but perhaps at a slower rate.
Lastly, get a crystal ball out. What does this year... I can hear you chuckling in the background. Thanks a lot for that one, Nick. What do you imagine this year holds for your game?
Steady as she goes. I don't think prices are going to drop too much, because they had a shock at the end of last year and there were a number of price drops around. There will be some bargain hunters in the market looking to see if they can hoover up some properties from developers that perhaps want to finish schemes. What we do need is to see some new builds start, and that's the most difficult thing. A lot of developers put things on hold for a period of time, and perhaps they're not starting just yet. So we do need to see that.
A lot of cranes on the skyline, though, I'm pleased to say, David. There does appear to be quite a lot of building going on.
There's a lot of building. There's a lot of commercial building. There's a lot of cranes that need to come down. It's probably too windy to bring them down, as we know all too well on one of our developments.
Oh, right. OK. Look after yourself, David. Thank you. As ever, David Galman, Sales Director and Director of Galliard Homes Limited. 7:37 is the time. Well, let's stay with money, and money matters, and the government will scale back support for businesses with energy bills after warning the current level of help was too expensive. Indeed, you will hear from Business Secretary Grant Shapps later in this hour on that. Under the new scheme, firms will get a discount on wholesale prices rather than costs being capped, as under the current one.